inspiring you to set the marketplace ablaze in partnership with an awesome and limitless God. This is the Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur Podcast, and this isn't business as usual. Here's your host and Chief Fire Igniter, Shae Bynes.
Welcome back to the Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur Podcast. This is your host, Shae Bynes, and our goal here is to inspire you to operate your business completely yielded and in partnership with our awesome and limitless God. Well, today we're doing another KDE behind the scenes chat. I have with me our prophetic strategist for Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur and one of my favorite people in the world, Dr. Tony Robinson. What's up, Doc?
Hello, good morning. How are you?
Real good. So you were on the podcast probably about 5 months ago. It was after our last Igniters gathering. So it was in June. And so that was really fun. But I don't know if you realize this. I realized this just the other day that you have now been the prophetic strategist for KDE for a whole year. Did you know that?
No, I did not. Wow. Happy anniversary.
Oh, right? I was like, that's cool. I didn't realize it had been so long. But we just recently made this shift because before you were doing prophetic strategist and Igniters mentor.
Yes.
And now this is the first round of Igniters mentoring that you are no longer mentoring and you're only doing the prophetic strategist role. So how is that for you right now? What was that transition like for you and how do you feel about it now?
It was like sending all your babies off to college and you're super excited about it. Like they're all grown, they can fly, and I'm going to have this clear out the space to make room for all this other stuff that we're going to do, right? And as you're making all the space, you feel the void for a minute. But then it was like such an adjustment period because it's like, I miss my people. But then I get to watch them grow and fly into who they were created to be and in their purpose. And it just fills my mama mentor's heart with joy. And that space that I had been occupying with all my little chicks in my nest is now able to be occupied with dreaming and visioning and just spending time with God for you and Kingdom Driven Entrepreneurs. So it was that kind of shift, like, okay, wait, no, we free. It's like, your kids leave the house and you spend about 30 days missing your kids and they were just in kindergarten. Oh my God, I can't believe the last one is gone. And you're just lamenting. And then you get that revelation. Wait a minute, free. We can do some stuff we couldn't do before.
That's
I don't
right.
have to sit in the closet to eat Oreos. I could eat them with ice cream out front on the couch without kids saying, can I have some? So you get that freedom moment. You like, let's go, Jesus. Let's just dream big about this.
Oh my gosh, that's so fun. Okay, so for the people who this is their first time hearing us say something like we have a prophetic strategist. Okay, so let me go back a little bit. So we created the role for you back, like I said, a little bit over a year ago. And it was a result of it was me spending time with God concerning the organization, where the holes were, where the needs are, even spiritually gift speaking, where I knew that my pastoral gift was waning. And I knew that that's when I knew that I needed that strong pastoral gift within Angie to be COO, right? To do things that I no longer had the capacity to do anymore. And with, that whole thing. And then one of the things that also had shown up was this whole thing around prophetic strategy. And, we didn't know what this looks like. We still quite honestly don't even really know what this looks like. Like a year in, we're still making it up as we go along. But if someone asked you and said, what does it mean to be a prophetic strategist for a Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur? How would you answer that question?
Easy. It's really easy for me to answer because I don't have to explain it to everybody else like you do. But for me, my answer is that I get to spend an unspecified amount of time with the Father, hanging out with him in intercession and dreaming and hearing his voice and just praying for you, praying for the organization, the company at large, And it's a really fun place. It's like when you take an artist and you open them, you just push them into a museum, and there's all the paints and colors and markers, and you get to say, just paint and color to your heart's desire. Or you take a baker and you put her in a bakery with all the dough and flour and spices and sugar and yeast, and say, you could just have fun in here and create rolls and cakes. So that's what it's like for me, is getting to be in this sweet spot with the Father. I can see your face because I'm looking at you, and I'm not going to cry about this, because it's, for me, it's an honor and it's a privilege. I don't take prayer lightly. I don't take my gifts lightly. I never take them for granted. And so whenever the Father creates a space for me to flow with him in that gifting, and because I don't live from my giftings, I operate out of my giftings, but I don't live from there. So when there's a pocket that's created where I get to sit with him and have conversations and pray for people and things that I love, that's what I get to do. And I can't even believe this is a real job. Like, this is a real job, that this is what we get to do.
Yes.
Because it's a work done from a place of love. It's really a labor of love.
Yeah, it's so good. And then for those wondering what it's like for me on my end and for the rest of the team, so for us, it looks like we have strategy meetings every week. And I could share, this is what's on my heart, this is what I'm thinking about. A lot of times I even have questions, because our conversations end up being very confirming for me, and sometimes redirecting. Sometimes really stretching, because I may be thinking too small about a matter, or, anything, right? And so it's been super helpful for me. And then we've also now have you engaging. So now we also created the special ops team. So the special ops team, right? Angie leads the special ops teams, and it's Angie as COO, with Tony as a prophetic strategist, with Latara as our Igniters team lead, and with Christina as marketing manager. And I will not even lie to you, sometimes I feel some kind of way, because you guys, I get to hear like all the awesome stuff that was happening in this meeting that I wasn't in, But the special ops team then gets to work together to talk about some of the operational things that are going on, and some of the things that we need to shift, or some of the things, just kind of dreaming about things and all of that. And so that's been really cool too, organizationally. So we've just grown a lot this year.
We have, by leaps and bounds, literally from glory to glory. And it's amazing. It is so amazing to be a part of and to witness it.
Yeah, so fun. Okay, so right now, the assignment for me, I talked about this last week when I did my solo podcast. At the end, I was sharing how I'm dreaming with God right now. And like in November, that's what I do. Dream with God concerning Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur. You, of course, stretching me to make sure that I also dream with God concerning my personal life, family life, and all of those things as well. And so I'm doing that, but I'm doing it from a completely different perspective now. It's actually really kind of interesting. So I got to tell you, when I came to you last week and I shared with you, here I'm thinking, wow, I'm dreaming with God like it's 2025. And I went and I dreamed with God. And the first thing, I've been doing this in stages. The first stage is, okay, I'm dreaming like it's 2025. And I'm thinking about, okay, what am I doing? Like, what's my role in this movement? What does that look like? And then after that, I'm saying, okay, now what's Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur as a whole? Like, what's happening? What does 2025 look like? And I came to you sharing my first part. And do you know what you said to me? Do you remember what you said to me, Doc?
I don't, but by your face, I could tell it was something profound.
You said to me, well, first of all, you disappeared and you ran to get markers and all of that. You got your markers.
That's right.
You're sitting down, you're writing all this stuff down, and you're just listening to me. And you said to me, well, 87%, which I'm like, where you get 87% from? But okay. You said 87% of what you just shared is really 2023.
That's right.
It's not 2025, it's 2023. But we'll let you believe that that's 2025, because maybe that's what you need right now, is to believe. that that's 2025. But I'm telling you that that is 2023. So I thought maybe it would be fun. This is probably going to be helpful for me and everybody who's listening, because I still have to finish the work of dreaming with God.
Yes, you
It's
do.
2025. So I'm going to use this behind the scenes chat also to get some help beyond our Wednesday meeting. And I also believe it's going to be a blessing to those who are listening, because there's this whole thing around dreaming with God. In fact, you just launched a Master Dream Academy because you're going to be walking people through dreaming with God.
I am. Yes.
And
So
that starts
fun.
what? That starts when does that start?
December 9th. December
9th.
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna make sure to include the link in the show notes, because listen, y'all want to learn how to dream with God for real. And I can tell you from my personal experience that being mentored and guided through that with Tony is going to be a huge blessing for you. All right, so let's talk about let's talk some foundation stuff first. With dreaming with God, some people are just like, well, I dream. Like I dream about stuff. I just kind of come up with ideas and stuff like that and write them down for my business. What do you mean when you say dreaming with God? Like, how is that different from me just saying, well, I'm just dreaming about my business? What's the difference?
I think the great difference is being able to sit and hold space with the Father, to where you're being very intentional on dreaming with Him. And you're reserving some time. You're pretty much locking out everything else to sit in this space with Him, to get real clear on what His dreams for your life look like, what His dreams for your business look like, and how those dreams shift. And they shift you, they should shift your business, and they should always be so much bigger than you, because we dream. And the Bible is clear. It says in Acts that now unto the God who's able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we can ask, think, or imagine. So that's what anything we can dream. Can you imagine that His dreams for us are so much bigger than that? And God doesn't dream on small scales. And how do we know this? It's because we're living proof of God's dream. If you didn't know that and didn't know this, I'm telling you now, you are God's dream manifested on the earth. He dreamt you up. He didn't just dream me up on January 6th of 1960 something. The dream for me didn't start there. He knew me way before then. So when He laid the foundations of the earth, when He was dreaming of what earth would look like, the plants, the animals, the zebras and elephants and koalas and all the stuff that He personally knew that I would love, like beaches, Aruba, the Bahamas, Puerto Rico, He knew in His mind that, oh, she's going to like this stuff too. So let me add that into the dream. I was part of the dream. You were part of the dream. From before the foundations of the world, He was dreaming about us. So we have to be able to engage with the Father on that level of dreaming, so that we're not living haphazardly from, dare I say, fantasy to fantasy. Because sometimes our dreams are really just fantasies. That's truth. And the difference between a dream and a fantasy is that we can live in a perpetual state of fantasy. I dream of winning the lottery. And Shae knows this. I talked to you about it, girl. One day when I hit the lottery, but the reality is that's a fantasy. I live in Las Vegas. In Nevada, we don't have the lottery. And I don't go to the casinos to gamble. So every time I say, I'm just going to win the lottery, that's a fantasy. I have to actually leave Nevada to go to Arizona or California to even get a lottery ticket. And when you start thinking about the gas, the mileage, the time, I'm really not going to be going up there every other day to get a lottery ticket. That's a fantasy.
Right.
And so sometimes we have these things that we think are dreams, but they're really fantasies. And a fantasy will lull you and just allow you to stay there and rock yourself in that false state of belief. But a godly dream will ignite and activate something in you so intense that you are compelled to get up and do something about it.
Wow. That's good. That's good. One of the things that I was doing differently this time than what I've done in the past was I see stuff, so since I tend to be visual, I'm like, okay, so God, I it's like I was inspired by a quote. I took a picture of a page in a book that I had read about Harriet Tubman, about the prophetic journey of Harriet Tubman, and I had sent it to you. And in that book, it was describing how she would have these dreams where she had an aerial view. It was like she was above what was going on, and she could see from a different perspective.
Yes.
And so what I've been doing this time is, it's like, I want to see from an
Yes.
aerial view, from your perspective. I want to see what's happening 2025, which you told me is now it's really 2023. But I want to see, what does that look like? And when I took that perspective, it was actually it was different. It was coming from a different place. Because now I'm asking him to give me his point of view concerning the thing, right?
Yes.
Not just coming out of, oh, well, this is the desire of my heart. I mean, I did some of that stuff too. Like, I'm a passionate storyteller. And so I'm going to be telling God stories for the rest of my life. So some of that stuff is it's just who I am. And I just want to express that. Right. But there was other things that really aren't like the things that if I were writing it, this is what it would look like. But from his point of view, I could see myself doing some stuff that was like, that's really interesting. I wouldn't have designed it that way, but I know that's completely in line with your heart and your purposes. And so I say yes to that. And I don't even know what it looks like. And I can't create a blueprint, a 10-page plan of action items for how to get from here to there either. But I have to stay really close to you on this thing to see what that path looks like. So it's been interesting because there's some things that I can take these implementation steps with, but there's other things that it's like, I wouldn't even know how to begin to say, here's my implementation plan for that, right? So I have to stay close to the Father to say, okay, when does that start? It does look, and what is my role in this thing?
Yes.
So it's been like for me that some things were easier than others to try to say, okay, this looks like a logical next step for this, or this is what we're doing this part already, but I believe that he's leading us to do this on top of that, and that could be a path towards it. So speak to that if you could.
And I love that, because first I want to say this, because you said how there are things that are just in your heart. And so there are times that we have very natural dreams, and they don't necessarily have to come from heaven, like God saying, I want you to dream this dream, Shae Bynes.
Why are you using my government name though?
Because I'm serious. It's so... But it's those things that are in our hearts, because he gives us the desires of our heart. So we have these desires in our heart that we get to live them out. And it's like, and I think how when we dream with God and we partner with him for the big things, I think he loves for us to then walk out the things that we're capable of walking out, because he gets to partner with us and like walk with us in it. And he's so proud of us. Like, look at my daughter, she's doing this. And she doesn't even know that she's like, when, Malia started to walk, it's like, okay, we're holding her hand. Like, oh my gosh, she's taking a step, because it's innate within her to want to walk. It's natural for a child to want to walk. And so we get excited when they walk, and they're living out their dreams of walking and then running. And they have no idea, because we see the bigger picture of where they're running into. And they're running into something so big that we've even dreamt of us. That's how God is. And so he partners with us on those level of dreams. Like he's holding our hands and look at my daughter go. She's so awesome. She's cute. Look at her. And so then we have those times when we do have those aerial views. And that's one of my favorite ways to dream, is from that plane. And so getting to dream from that level with God first of all, it's exhilarating. And it allows us to tap into a greater awareness or knowing of who God is.
Yeah.
And we get to see him bigger. And so when we see our dreams bigger and we see them from heaven's perspective, what it does for me, and I hope what it does for you, and what it does for others, is that it causes us to run so much deeper into him.
Yes.
And it just creates so much more intimacy with him, because we just want to long to be at his feet to say, okay, what's the next step? What's the next step? And it's like, God, I don't want to do this without you. It's impossible to do it without you. And it's like, show us the next step. Show us the line upon line, precept upon precept. And I think what it also does, and what I believe it should do, is this, is cause us to stop and pause and reflect, because we get so busy running. And we get so busy running that we can often run ahead of God or begin to run without him. And we don't even realize God's still way back over here. And it's like, we turn it around like, oh, this is so much fun. And we're like, wait, where, Jesus, where are you? Where? Like when you're a kid, you're in the mall and they've just learned to run, and they're excited because they're running, and they take off running, and we're just watching them, right? And they don't know we're at Annie's Pretzels. And so we're just, we're still watching them. Our eyes have not left them. And then all of a sudden they're so excited about running. They turn around and look, and they're like, wait, mom. It's like, yeah, I'm still here. And
Yes.
so come on back this way. And so when we have those moments where we're realizing the bigness of God, the bigness of the dreams, that we can actually stop and pause and just languish in that moment and just rest in that moment. Because when you're dreaming with God, you're going to have these times, and you should have these times, where as much as you want to go to the next step and you want to see the next step, where you are is so awesome and amazing. So awesome and amazing. You just want to pause there, and you just want to hang out there with God, because this is so good. And you just want to take in that moment. You want to take in this process, because it's so big and it's so good and it's so rich and it's so full of heaven. And that even though you can see the goodness on the other side, you just want to hang out here, because it's you and it's your dad, and he's just like, this is what he's doing with you and through you. And you get to look at him with fresh eyes of wonder. And it's like, wow, God, you love me so much that you trust me with this. You love me so much that you desire this for me. God, you love me so much that you dreamt about this for me. And you want to pause there. And it's in that pausing where we get built up and shored up, because sometimes we don't know that where we're going next, because we see the bigness of it. And we sing a song right now, it just keeps getting bigger. It keeps getting better. It keeps getting, and because what's coming next is so much bigger than where we are. When we fail to pause and have those Abba daughter, Abba son moments, we miss the infilling, we miss the shoring up, so that we're strengthened for the next leg of his goodness, and we don't buckle under the weight of it.
That is so good. And that's what I was feeling that last week of our 7th year with KDE. It was like, I can't dream with God before I have paused and reflected over the last 7 years. It was just like, I just need to sit with, I mean, there would be days, sis, that I would just be sitting at my desk, like spaced out. I was just enjoying just thinking about, meditating on the goodness of the last 7 years. And it created such a appreciation and a gratefulness to be able to look at how something was in the past and see how far God's taken something, or you, in my case, taken me individually, just on the inside, right? It creates, I think, just a very important foundation for moving forward, for, dreaming with God about the next thing,
Yes.
Yeah. So we don't want to stay in a perpetual state of what's next.
Yeah, no, we want to be able to pause and reflect. And I know that the temptation is there, because there's a lot of times when we feel like we started out running after our dreams, walking with God with our dreams, and those dreams seemingly have turned to nightmares. And so we want to run through them. I can't wait for this season to be over. This has been the 7 years of hell. And we have those experiences, and that's okay that we've had those experiences. But if we don't stop, even when we've been through the quote unquote 7 years of hell, and we don't stop to pause and pick out where we've seen the goodness of God at, Okay, this has been a really rough 7 years for us, but we got to see God move here. We got
Yes.
to see God move here. We got to see him move there. Well, for some people, it may be like, well, I don't think I saw God at all. I'm like, where was the goodness of God? And it's like, but are you still breathing? Are you still standing? Did you file bankruptcy? Are your doors still open? And it's like, yeah, but barely, but we didn't make a profit. I mean, we came out of it with a loss, but are you still in business? Is your name still intact? Have you grown in character? Have you grown in integrity? Can you say you trust God more than you've ever trusted him before? So even in the midst of the mire and the hardships and all of that stuff, there's still diamonds and gold that we can mine out, that we can pocket. We experience God's goodness. And it's
Yes.
important for that we stop and we reflect on that, because if we don't, we'll only dream from a nightmarish realm. We'll only dream of, okay, I'm still doing it because God said it's going to do it, and this just sucks. It doesn't work, and we have this negative perspective, and we miss the pockets of goodness if we only focus on that part. My son came to me one day in Jordan. He was some years ago. He's a little younger, and he said, "Mom," he had this revelation right about kids in their dreams, and he said how when kids dream, there's two types of people that see that have that nightmares, and they fear the monster under the bed. And so there's two type of kids. There's the kids that hide under the covers and they got to sleep with all the lights on, or there's the kid that can't wait for dark to come because they're going to be the superhero that goes after and slay that monster. So even in that, we get a choice. We have a choice in how we see our dreams. Are you going to be the kid that hides under the bed with the blankets over his head with all the lights on because you just everything's going to be dark and negative? Are you going to be the one that straps on that superhero cape and says, I can't wait tonight because I'm going to slay? They're going to be the hero in this story. And so when we start picking out the diamonds and picking out the gold and the gems that we've had in these moments, then that's how we become the superheroes and turn nightmares into dreams.
Wow. I can so resonate with that because, well, you know my story. So you know my 3 years of cray cray.
Yes.
But even in the midst of the 3 years of the craziness within the 7 years, it was like I could always see God in the midst of it.
Yes.
Always. Even in the
Yes.
hardest time, even when we had to sell our house, even when we had to spend 40 days in a hotel,
Yes.
even when, like, I could go on. In the midst of all that stuff, there were still things that I could point to and said, I just saw the goodness of God in this particular
Yes.
way.
Yes. Yes.
And I can go back. I can say, I'm glad I'm on the other side of that. Praise God.
Yes.
But I can always go back to see, I have a whole laundry list of things that came out of those 3 years that to
Yes.
me are invaluable.
Yes.
And also position and prepare for even the ability to understand others,
Yes.
to be helpful to others,
Yes.
and to help and to be helpful to me for the next thing he's got for us, right?
Yes.
It's there's always something.
It really is. And when we look in the Old Testament, that whenever they were in the wilderness that they were going through, God would tell them to take stones and build an altar,
Yes.
right? Or
Yes.
they would collect the stone and take it with them because it would serve as a reminder, as a memorabilia of where God showed up in the hard places. And when you collect enough of these stones, and I have a shelf upstairs in my bedroom of stones that I've collected from very specific times where God showed up with the miraculous, and they serve as a reminder that, hey, I'm still serving the same God. He hasn't changed. And he just keeps getting better. So my rocks keep getting bigger. And so we remember that. And sometimes it's hard to remember that you're living in the middle of your dream life. It really is hard. I'll never forget before I got married, before I met my husband, and I had a lot of physical issues. And I remember the doctor told me, like, that I'd probably never have kids. Well, he didn't say probably. He is very definitive about you'll never have kids, and because you have these issues going on in your body, and your body just is not designed to house babies. There's all this stuff, and it was very hard. But I worked at a school as assistant director of an educational center. And on my lunch break, I would go and I'd sit at this park and just have my sandwich and yogurt or whatever. And I'd watch all these stay-at-home moms. Well, they look like stay-at-home moms. Could have been their off days. They could have worked nights. We live in Las Vegas. Everybody works 24-hour shifts, right? And they would be at the park just playing with their babies. And I would just think, God, you know what? I don't care. One day I'm going to have kids. And you know what, God, when I have kids, I'm going to bring my kids to the park and I'm going to do this. And I would just dream about the time I would have kids. And I remember fast forward 10, 15 years, I had 4 kids, all 18 months apart. So it was like, that's overwhelming. When you have 4 children, all 18 months apart, it's overwhelming. And so I remember going to the grocery store, and just in that moment, felt like it was so hard. It was such a hard place. Like, God, where are you in the middle of this? Like, these kids, and my husband worked for the government. It was gone 284 to 87 days a year. And it was me and these kids, and I homeschooled, and it was just a rough day. And I was at the store by myself because I had a break, just kind of whining, but lying and saying I was praying. We did. I'm complaining and lying, whining and saying, but because I'm throwing God in there, it's praying.
Right.
I remember when he said, "You're living your dream life."
Wow.
And I was like, what kind? I don't remember this nightmare. This was never. And he took me back to the days when I would dream about being a mom and taking kids to the park and being able to stay home. So sometimes in the thick of it, in the rough patches, in the hard places, in those dark moments of life, we can forget that God has blessed us to live out our dreams. And we look at it, we can't see his goodness because we're only focused on the negative or the dark part of it. And it changed my perspective on being a parent and a mom. Like, I don't even have a right to complain about how hard it is right now, because I've gone from a situation where doctors, plural, have told me that I would never have children, that if I had a child, it would be stillborn or, miscarried because of the way my uterus and pelvic and all this was just tilted and twisted. And so I'm living a dream.
Yeah.
And yet I'm complaining. I'm in the middle of a miracle. And
Wow.
I'm complaining. We're like the children of Israel. They dreamed of freedom. Their cries reached to God, and we're free. But we talking about, at least we had garlic and onions in Egypt. And we free. We's free, man. We's
Right.
free. But because we are only looking at that moment, we don't realize we're living in the middle of our miraculous dream come true. So that's why it's important to have those pockets of moments where you can trace the hand of God.
Wow. So why last year, when I was dreaming with God, did you say, dream like it's 2021 instead of 2019? And then this year you said to me, don't dream like it's 2020, dream like it's 2025.
Because when we don't dream out with God, we only dream of where we are. So most people right now that are dreaming, like, they're dreaming about next year. And you know what the truth about they're dreaming about next year? They don't really care anything about next year. What it is they're dreaming about getting out of the place that they're in right now. Like, I can't wait for this is over. So I'm just going to start dreaming about next year. You don't care anything about next year. You just want to be free from the space you're at right now. And so again, you're dreaming dreams that won't be activated because you're actually fantasizing about freedom, right?
Wow.
So, it's fun doing the podcast with you because they only hear us, but we're face to face. We're seeing each other on the camera. So your face right now is giving me life. Like, you're giving me life. I just want you to know that. And the reality is, because we're so self-focused, And I'm sorry, but not sorry if that offends you as a believer, because we're not self-focused. I mean, we love everybody. We're not selfish. We're not self-focused. It's not about me, but yes, it is. Yes, it is. That's why you're dreaming about how you can get out of where you are right now. It don't have nothing to do with it. Listen, when I tell you we're self-focused, and this is important for you to hear, if you're not dreaming with God and you're only self-focused in your dreams, you'll sacrifice anything. How do I know this? Because when we were in the hardest places of our lives, I was willing to sacrifice anything. How was I willing to sacrifice anything? God, I just, if you just deliver us out of the situation, it's like, because my kids deserve better than this. My kids need more than this, God. You don't have to bless me, but do it for my kids. Just bring us out of this for the sake of my kids. And God told me to my face, you don't care about your kids. You're just using your kids as a way to get out of where you're out of. You're willing to sacrifice your kids to get free from this, but you got to go through this, and your kids are going through this with you, and they'll have a testimony just like you'll have a testimony. And so that's what I mean, is how we'll sacrifice anything in order to
Wow.
get out of that. But when we are really aligning our dreams with God, we see the bigger picture. We're seeing this thing from the hand of God and the mind of God. So we look beyond our current circumstances. And the truth of the matter is, when we're dreaming, even when we're dreaming with God, we're still 3 years behind. So God's like, okay, dream, so many years into the future. And the reason I have you dream into the future is because even if I told you to dream at 2020, let's dream into 2023, and we see those dreams are still 3 years behind. And God says, that's cute. That's why we're letting you try to catch up with me, because I'm trying to expedite and accelerate your growth and launch you into the now, because you still believe the now is now, but the
Wow.
now is the past. Why do you say the now is the past? Because everything I just told you about me sacrificing my kids for the sake of getting out of that was a minute ago. That's already in the past.
Wow.
You still think we're in the now. That right now, what I just said, what I just told you, you still think we're in the now. That's already in the past. Time flies like that. See what I'm talking about? So
Yes.
the beginning of the podcast is already in the past, and I'm having to think in the future. What am I going to say now? What am I going to say next? So even when I say what I'm thinking next, it's already in the past. It's moving and moving. So we have to position our hearts to dream with God from what the reality of his now, not ours. Whew.
Well, I'm glad I asked.
I'm glad you did too, because I got to see your face again. Jesus gives me life.
Wow. No, that's really powerful, though. That's really powerful. I'm sitting and meditating on that myself right now. But that's so good. So it's interesting now that I think back. So probably what happened with me last year when I presented to you, I remember when I presented to you when I was dreaming like it was 2021, and you pretty much laughed at me when I came to you and you said, that's cute. That's really great. I'd love for you to go back and do it all over again. And I went and I came back and did it all over again. And I suspect, you could tell me now, I'm putting you on the spot. I suspect that even when I came back the next time, you were looking at that like, that's not 2021 either. And you didn't tell me that this time. You didn't tell me that time. Because I have to believe that I have grown in my ability to dream with God. So if I did 2020, if I didn't really do 2025, I did 2023, then that means this time I dreamed out 3 years, which means last time I couldn't have dreamed out 3 years. Like last time I must have been like, I don't know what I was doing. I think you were just being very gracious with me.
I was. And I'm going to ask you this. So when you look back on the things that you were dreaming about for 2020, and then we see, well, we start checking off the list. Oh,
You were
wait.
checking them off fast, sis.
We did that. We did. That's why I'm like, okay, that's cute. You still think that's the future, don't you? But I no longer laugh at you. I just love you because you have grown so much in your ability to dream. And And you just gave me food for thought, because I'm like, whoa, I can probably say anything, because I'm thinking about, we had a dream experience with Angie RC, where we had her do her dream, and she came back, and it was a beautiful dream. And I'm looking at this, God and I are looking at this, and he tells her, like, well, this is cute, but this is like a little street carnival in the parking lot of a grocery store. I need you to go back, and I need to dream like this is Disney World. And her face was like, wait, did she just take my dreams and diminish it to a street weekend?
That one where they take the rides and they can fold them back up and take them to the next
So they,
town.
they throw it up on a Wednesday, and on Sunday night it's taken down, and it's back to be in the parking lot of Kroger's or Publix or Piggly Wiggly or whatever. Her face was, and it's like, because God challenges us to dream big, and so that's never diminishing your dreams. But what it is to say, no, this is really cute. This is super cute. This is really, really cute.
Right.
But I need you to go back, and I really need you to dream with God, because God never robs us of our dreams. And for God to say, yay, like God, like we, you know what, we clap, we're happy when the baby starts to walk, but we never let our kids stop there. We continue to encourage their growth, because if we don't, we'll retard and stunt their development. And that's not the nature of God. That's the nature of the enemy, to stunt your growth and retard your development, to keep you stuck in a place where you think you're actually living out the dreams that God has for you, and you're just going around and around in a Ferris wheel in the Piggly Wiggly parking lot.
Wow. Wow.
But you've stretched and you've grown, and I'm proud of you. Yep.
Well, thanks. It felt different this time, even though I'm not done. It has been
No, you're not.
different this time than last time.
Yes.
So one of the core differences also, because I shared this on the podcast last week, and I was talking about how in the past, I didn't realize it then, but the journey God had taken me on was all on this kingdom mathematics thing about how he can take your little fish, your little loaves, breathe on it, and make it amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like I was dreaming with that aspect of God. When I was doing my dreaming last year, I was dreaming with that aspect of God, which means that I could only see things that were currently in my hand. If I go back, I'm just in retrospect, I'm just thinking through this thing. If I go back and look at the things that I had on the list, I could actually go to each one of those and point out the seed of something that already currently existed that we were doing, that was a natural extension and growth from.
Mm-hmm.
This year, I'm like, so that's not the only aspect of God I'm dreaming with. I'm also dreaming with the God who creates something out of nothing.
That's
like
right.
the gold poof that I saw by your leg at Walmart. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to listen to last week's podcast.
Yes.
And I'm also dreaming with God who responds to the words that come out of my mouth that are aligned with his word.
Yes.
Responding to the words that come out of my mouth.
Yes.
And so that's different, because that can look like the words that come out of my mouth based off of something that he showed me could have something that I don't even have this. I don't even know of the seed of the thing. We're not already currently doing it. It's something that's completely outside of what I can say is my little fish and my little loaves today.
That's right.
And that process looks way different.
Yes.
Than only
yes,
looking at what do I have and what are the possibilities of its multiplication.
Mm-hmm.
I just preached a word to myself.
You sure did. And to all your listeners.
Man, it's been really rich. Okay, so we have to close this episode up. So what do you want to leave the Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur family with?
Knowing that we're called to dream with God. We're called to be co-laborers with him. And if we're not dreaming with him, we can't co-labor with him. We'll either be doing one of two things. We'll be laboring alone and then asking God to come and help us take up the weight that we've created because we can't carry it. Or we'll be asking God to do all the labor, and then we co-sign on the, the benefits of it. Like, yeah, God did it all. God got the glory. And then we reap the benefits of it. When we're walking in pros with God, face to face, we're walking in partnership with him. So having that dream and being able to dream with him and from him changes everything. And I think, especially as we close out the year, it's important that we're dreaming with God, because too many times, too many of us, we leave each year to go into the next year without a plan. I'm very specific and strategic, and I try to encourage people to do that. What is your exit plan for the year? Have you sat down and looked at where you and God have been throughout this entire year? Have you examined your journey? Have you decided how you want to close the year out? Have you dreamt about closing the year out? What does that look like? And then have you sat with him to dream up your entry plan to 2020? What's your entry plan for the next year? We have to stop living from year to year. We just live without a plan, or we make something up. We can operate real well in the make stuff up ministry. I'm gonna start creating licenses and ordinations. Or whole stadiums where we just gonna ordain people to operate in their make stuff up ministry. Because if you're gonna do it, get a license for it. I mean, people paying for licensing for everything now. Why not that, right? So, but the reality of it is, we don't want you to live from that place. We really want you to live really, really, really from the bosom of heaven. And doing that means just that being face to face with God, dreaming from heaven, dreaming with him, and walking out that dream. So that's really what I encourage people to do. I want to leave them with that. I want that to unlock something in your heart and your mind. Like, hey, this makes sense. I need to resonate with this, because the only thing it's going to do is bring you into such a closer relationship with the Father that you can't help but to grow from.
That's so good. Okay, shout out the link for the Dream Academy that you're doing. Where do they go?
They go to TonyRcoaching.com, and there is a / in there. There's a link for it in the menu for the Master Dream Academy, but you can also do Tony R Coaching, and it's Tony R with the Y, TONY, rcoaching.com / master -dream -academy. So, but you can find it right there on my page. Yep.
Perfect. Thanks so much for sharing. This was good. And thank you just for who you are. Thank you for being right here beside me. It's been awesome, and it's going to just keep getting better.
It does, and it is. Thank you. I love you with my whole soul.
Thanks for joining us on the Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur Podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, we encourage you to subscribe and spread the word. And don't forget, you can gain access to even more resources, plus a thriving community of fire starters by visiting our website at kingdomdrivenentrepreneur.com.